to the next level.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Coach Tiffany Parra, Editor-in-Chief of Phoenix Fitness Fanatics magazine, elevating your mind, body, and spirit. Today, we are out in the streets. You know what? Sometimes you got to do what you got to do to be able to show up and show out for your people. So I am out here. You may hear a little bit of background noise, but today is our Marketing 101 with our amazing Empress Ayana. Let me go ahead and bring her on in the house. Hey, good morning, good morning.
Hey, Tiffany.
Look, we are showing up today. I was not about to let the technical difficulties stop us. So, welcome. Please, Empress, please, real quickly, for those who do not know you, have not had the pleasure of meeting you yet, please introduce yourself, tell everyone who you are, where you're from, and a little bit about what you do before we dig on in today.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I am Empress Ayana, the founder of Onyx Restorative Justice, which is a lifestyle elevation business that targets Black women business owners. And we help to support Black women business owners with marketing. Well, you told me to get into what I do in a second. So I'll get into that in a second. But I'm a lifestyle elevation specialist, and I support Black women entrepreneurs, as well as curating safe spaces for Black women. And I'm in Norwalk, Connecticut. That's where I am located. And as far as what I do, as I was saying, I do some marketing and branding. And I also help for Black women business owners to streamline your processes as it relates to business. I do curate safe spaces for Black women, such as my business hub, which is the Black Women's Entrepreneurial Collective. And so we have a lot of amazing, wonderful things happening over there. And yeah, so that's in a nutshell what I do.
Yes. Well, welcome. And we are so excited to have Empress on or in our Phoenix Fitness Fanatics magazine, sharing our Marketing 101, as well as some just really amazing content. So make sure you guys are all subscribed so you can get the content from Empress, as well as the other amazing contributing writers that are helping you to elevate that mind, body, and spirit. So today we are talking about consistency and what it means to just show up for your brand, right? So if you guys have not read Empress's Marketing 101 yet, these questions that I'm going to be asking her today are from what I read and just what I took from, the article. So definitely get out there, read the article, and Empress is going to be putting some things in the content or in the comments, later on for you to grab as well. So Empress, you always really, emphasize that consistency. It builds trust and, really helps somebody when they are building their brand. Why do you believe that consistency is one of the most powerful tools in marketing today?
Well, I believe that consistency is one of the most powerful tools in marketing because, it helps people to be able to recognize, right? Like your brand, right? So you're being consistent. People are becoming familiar with you. They're learning to trust your brand through that consistency, whether it be, through your messaging, how you show up, just you being authentic, and people get a feel for who you are and whether or not if they want to work with you, right? Because it really does affect your professionalism as it relates to your consistency and people being able to understand what you do and who you are. So those are, just some of the basics of, why it's very powerful to have a very consistent message. You don't want to confuse people. You want to build that trust with them, and you want them to be able to recognize you no matter where they see you, whether it's on Instagram, or recognize your brand rather, right? They come across it, whatever it may be. So I think those are just some of the, core ways of people can recognize you when you are consistent, right?
Yes. Now you kind of touched on it a little bit, talking about some of the platforms. And there's so many platforms out there. I mean, you got Instagram, you got Facebook, you got LinkedIn, you got Alignable. I mean, and there's
Mhm.
so many others out there, YouTube, so many different platforms that we're blessed to have access to be able to get our faces out there. But many of us struggle with trying to get out on all of the different platforms. So what are some signs that businesses might be spreading themselves a little too thin online?
Yeah, I think a lot of times, as business owners, we do want to be everywhere, right? We want for people to see us, they want to see what we have going on. However, I think that some signs that a person might be stretching themselves too thin is if you feel anxiety when it's time for you to post, you're feeling a lot of feelings that are not necessarily like high vibrational, emotions. You're not excited about it. You're feeling really stressed out about it. You're not getting the feedback that you're looking for. So that is a major factor in whether or not, you are going about it in the healthiest way in everything. And so and also when it as it relates to that, and also if people are like confused, right? Because if people are confused about what it is you're doing or what it is you're talking about, then that definitely is going to affect you, which also, like I said, affects your visibility and things like that, right? But also I think it's really important that we do know where our people are, right? You have to identify your, so long as your target audience is, you're very clear on who they are, you also need to know where they are, where to find them, the best way to connect with them. So that's another indicator. Is it, like I said, it all ties in. So maybe your people mainly use Instagram, right? So that's definitely where you want to be marketing towards them. If you and you need to look at the results that you're seeing, right? So say for instance, if you are using Facebook and you're using Instagram, make sure you go to the insights, right? Like, what are the posts that people are paying attention to most? What's getting the most engagement? What isn't getting as much engagement on these different platforms? And that will help you to like target even your content to particular platforms. But when we're talking about being kind of like overwhelmed with marketing and all the different options that we have and platforms, then streamlining is obviously a great way to, in automating a lot of your messaging when it's going out. So for example, I use Meta, right? I like Meta because it posts both on Instagram and on Facebook, right? So I think finding automations that will allow you to post in multiple places at once is really important. And yeah, so I guess I'll leave it at that as it relates to your question. So those are some of the ways that indicators I would say. Oh, even another indicator I would say really quickly is if there are lots of mistakes in a person's posting, a lot of grammatical errors and things like that. So if the professionalism or the graphics are not really high quality, that's another way that I feel like somebody may be overextending themselves as it relates to their marketing. And if the graphic maybe doesn't really match the words, I would think that you probably need some help and support in that. Maybe you might be overwhelmed in your marketing efforts.
So many good points there. So many good points. And I have to always bring it back to your health as well, right, people? Because yes, if you feel overwhelmed when you are out, posting and sharing your business and sharing your brilliance, then you may need to go ahead and reach out to someone like Empress to, maybe offload some things. And I know sometimes it can be hard to offload some things because there's, some control freaks out there. And I will say, sometimes myself is included in that. But, sometimes you do have to really look at what's going on, inside as well. Is this giving you anxiety? Is it not fun? If it's not fun, and you don't want to do it, then
Exactly.
you're going to show up a little off, and people are going to see that. So you don't want to run people off from the messaging that you're putting out there just because you're not energetically into it, right?
Yes, 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 absolutely. Like that energy is everything. Energy is frequency, is it's money, right? Like ultimately at the end of the day, so you definitely want to make sure that energy is in alignment. And that you're showing up and happy, and feeling good about what it is that you're doing. Because a lot of times the happiness and the joy is zapped from the process because of all these things, all of these pieces, and it can be very, very overwhelming. And as you said, Tiffany, like people like myself, so I just really want to quickly talk and touch on something that I did do in my restructuring of my business to better support entrepreneurs as it relates to like what we're talking about right now, right? Because I was thinking, I was like, I really want to help Black women business owners beyond what I've been doing so far. So I was really just trying to dig in. I've been trying to do some research and gather and gain some more knowledge on how to better support my clients and potential clients, right? And so I was reading this book, and it's called We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Rogers. And in there, she talks about how she typically, well, not typically, but one of the first things that she does with her clients is she tells them to hire someone like admin support, marketing, like all that kind of a thing, right? And so I said to myself, I said, because when you have someone to help support you and you do invest in that, you gain back more time and energy, right? And so I said to myself, I said, okay, this is really what I want, right? I want to do an even better job with setting Black women entrepreneurs up with their earning potential and all of these things, and to really reduce the stress that we feel on a day to day, because our stressors are beyond just the standard things that people deal with on a day to day. I mean, add to it woman, add to it Black, it piles up, right? It's more. So I really want to take some of that pressure off of Black women entrepreneurs. And so I said, what I'm going to do is in my restructuring of my packages, my marketing packages, I added in admin time in there. So that way, you don't have to find an admin person and a marketing person. Like you can get all of your marketing, your admin needs met right here with me, where, that the work is going to get done. And, we're a reputable business. That you can trust that what we say we're going to do, we're actually going to do, and that we're showing up with integrity, right? Because I think a lot of times too is that we give our projects to people and we think that they really sell themselves and everything sounds good. But then when it's time for, the product, right, the finished product, that doesn't, in that process, doesn't feel like what they have promised up until that point. And that can cause some of that control issues sometimes too, right? Because you want it done right, and maybe you've had poor experiences. And so, that's another thing with even showing up with integrity in business. You make people more comfortable with what it is that they're giving over to you, because it is that is your passions and your work, everything that you put into it, all that time, that is special. That should be protected. And that should, whoever is taking on your project should really value that. So, I can totally understand, being a Black woman myself, about how hard that can be to kind of let go of the reins and the control to put it in somebody else's hands. But I think that is well worth the investment. Even though I don't think it's worth the risk per se, I think you do need to do your homework, and you do need to choose someone that definitely is showing up in their business, and has integrity as one of the foundational, core values that they operate from. So, yeah.
Awesome, awesome. So you mentioned in your article, you mentioned the importance of choosing, 2 or 3 platforms that you can realistically maintain.
Mhm.
How can someone determine which platform would be best for their brand audience and their message? LinkedIn typically is for, professional, things like that. You got Facebook that, I mean, Facebook's a little bit all over the place, I guess you could say. Really, it just all depends on how you show up, right? But there are so many. So how can you really pick which platform is going to be best for you?
Yeah, and as I said, before, you got to do a little bit of experimenting, and then looking at the analytics of, what you're getting in the engagement, right? So if you are, for example, a visual content creator, right? Say if maybe what you do is a graphic designer, you're a graphic designer, let's just say that. And you so the platforms that really hone in on the visuals would be the platform you would probably most do best in, right? The one that doesn't, it's like shorter captions, not as much talking, because you're really trying to highlight the graphics themselves, right? So that's really the focus. So, Instagram would be better for someone that is more on a visual level, right? So if you're looking for thinkers and people who are really like, they don't mind reading and things like that, you might do better on LinkedIn. If maybe you an author and you want to share pieces and snippets of your content and have conversations as it relates to your content, so you might do better on LinkedIn or Facebook with something like that, right? So I think that, like I said, you have to play around with some of these platforms, and also and see what people are engaging with most. But, I think on a basic level, if you are into visual arts or things like that, you need to go with platforms that really highlight that. If you are the type of person that, your work is very interactive, right? Like you have to talk to people a lot and things like that, I would say a platform like Alignable would be really good for something like that, because they really do focus and hone in on the networking side of things, as opposed to just promoting. They're really about the relationship building. So and even LinkedIn would be good for something like that. Threads, it seems like people really love Threads as it relates to conversational related things. But you just have to also make adjustments. So maybe you want to shorten that caption a little bit and pull them into something that's going to be, that's going to open up the discussion more. So maybe you have a discourse. So like even a discourse or Discord platform, that's a platform that you can have conversations in. You can, it's like private and things like that. So maybe if you're a mental health professional, something like Discord would be a great space for you, because it's more conversational and you can have discourse in those spaces. So yeah, so that's some ideas of how you should maybe like target the platforms based off of the kind of work that you do.
Love that. Love that. And checking the analytics. I love that you said checking the analytics. I
Mhm.
just I just found out really how to check the analytics all throughout the platforms. And it's really very simple, to do. And I'm gonna tell you guys, you can YouTube everything and anything and figure out how to do it. Okay.
Yeah.
So if look, what's one simple step that our audience can take today to start showing up more consistently in their brand?
Well, I know you said one thing, and it's so hard because these things are just so interconnected, right? But I would just, I would say that don't compare yourself to other people. There's a couple of things I really want to say. I really, because I feel like we get too hard on ourselves and, we compare ourselves to other people. And I think that's one thing, right? You want to be authentic in how you're showing up and not be hard on yourself and allow yourself to just be in that process, right? Not being too much of a perfectionist in it and really just doing it and pushing forward and getting it done. And so, I would just say that as it relates to showing up, and one major thing that people can do is understanding that with consistency, it's not necessarily like about perfection. It's more so about alignment, right? Making sure that your message, it is aligned with whatever it is that you're doing, and making sure you take the time to plan all of that out in advance, batching some of your content so that way, what you're going to have, right? You're planning in advance and things like that. And I think that that's one of the main things. You pick a day in the month or the week, and that's the day that you plan out your content. I'm going to post about this on this day, or this week is about this week is about that. So that's what I would just say, is that planning is so important, because especially if you're doing it yourself, you're just plugging it in, but it's consistent. It's happening, every day or several times a week, or, whatever it may be. So those would be, like my takeaways. Like I said, it's hard to just say one. But yeah, so planning, I think that coming up with your content for the month, that way, you're not feeling overwhelmed or whatever. If you can do it for 6 months or 9 months or even a year, go ahead and do it. Sit down, get that done, and be open to be flexible as it relates to changes, in that content. But planning is key to consistency.
Yes, plan it. Put it down. And I love that. I need to start batching out for 6 months. Okay, so you don't have to like go and touch it at all. You just, it's there. It's there. You don't
Yes.
have to think about it, right? Think about how much time that saves everybody, and how different we can show up. You know, just by having that all just done. Well,
Yes.
Empress, it is just so always so awesome to have you on the show, and just to drop those nuggets of knowledge on marketing and just how we can show up for our brand. Please share with the audience how they can get in touch with you if they want to work with you. And yeah, let them know.
Yes. So if you want to get in touch with me, you can always check out my website, and that's onyxrestorative justice.blogspot.com. And I do some writings as well. And I just released something. So go over there, check it out. Okay. And you can learn about everything that I do, my business hub, all that kind of stuff. That's probably the best way to get in contact with me, because on there you can also schedule a consultation, with me and everything, and we can kind of figure out if it would be perfect for us to work together. Because I don't take on everybody. Let's just be clear. You might be able to reach out, but that does not mean that I will take you on as a client. However, that would be the best way for us to connect, and even for you to get connected with my business hub, all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, that's what I would say. Hit me up, y'all. And you can also call me or text me. And my business line is 203-286-3410. Yeah, that's what I would say. Oh, even you can even reach out to me even here on Facebook, anywhere really. Like I'm all over the place. I'm on Alignable, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Google, I'm on YouTube, I'm everywhere. So yeah, just reach out and let's get together and see what we can do.
Awesome. Well, look, you have no excuse on being able to get connect with Empress because she is all over the place out there. So definitely connect. Definitely make sure that you are subscribing so you can read her wonderful and amazing articles in Phoenix Fitness Fanatics magazine. Again, Empress, thank you for taking center stage with me today on the Own It Publishing platform for Phoenix Fitness Fanatics magazine. Marketing 101. We are here to help you continue to keep your mind, body, and spirit, as well as your business and your finances fit. All right, everybody. So have an amazing day. Have an awesome week, and we will definitely see you next time. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for having me, Tiffany. Take care, everyone.